Hi, I'm Elliott Morgan. Welcome to the salon. This is Mental Floss video, and did you know that 8% of self-identified atheists in the US claim to believe in God or another universal spirit, and 2% say there's certain one exists? Why do they call themselves atheists? Who knows? And I know that a wise statesman once said there are three kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. But today, I'm going to do my best to tell you many true statistics and figures. 2013 public policy polling surveyed Americans about what conspiracy theories they believe in. It turns out that 14% of Americans believe that Bigfoot is real. 4% think lizard people control our government, and 5% of people who voted for Obama in 2012 think he's the Antichrist. Speaking of the government, NASA's budget for the year is about how much the US military spends every 11 days. And in 2012, the defense budget was higher than 50 years of NASA budgets. 3.3% of births in the US are twins. That figure has risen 76% in the past 30 years. Speaking of births, hyphenated names are on the rise in the UK, especially for baby boys. In 2003, there were about 150 boys given names with hyphens. By 2013, that rose to 1,000. The bot that fixes Wikipedia vandalism is known as ClueBot. It catches 40% of vandalism to the site, and it only has a rate of 0.1% false positives. Good job, ClueBot. An estimated 80% of available jobs in the US never get posted or advertised. A 2015 study conducted by the US Department of Labor found that over half of Americans' leisure time is spent in front of the TV. Speaking of TV, in 2012, the website Futon Critic did the math on how many broadcast network shows get a second season. It turns out that it's only 32%. Bummer. Sorry, show that I liked for a little bit. 40 hours a week is considered a full-time job. It's also the amount of time that 5 million Americans spend playing video games each week. According to one survey, about 72% of women and 60% of men who had affairs with a coworker say the infidelity began at an office holiday party, so Merry Christmas. Speaking of potential relationship enders, 33% of people say a movie or TV show has caused them to consider breaking up with their significant other. You have a 1 in 259 million chance of winning the lottery, which also means that you're 50 times more likely to be killed by bees than win the lottery. But hey, you can't win if you don't play, so good luck with the bees. Only 6% of US citizens pick soccer as their favorite sport to watch. Among them, I think John, right? Is John, that's his favorite? John's one of the 6%. Speaking of football, let's talk about the other kind. 46% of Pro Football Hall of Famers played for only one team over the course of their time in the NFL. Of 170 million American Bowling Congress games in 2002, only 0.025% ended with a perfect score, 300. Compare that with the odds of an MLB game with a no-hitter, which is around 0.049%. A 1993 study conducted in the UK found that injuries procured on Friday the 13th were 52% more likely to result in a hospital visit than injuries on the Friday of the previous week. According to one 2013 study, 14% of people with commutes to work that last 45 minutes or longer end up separated from their long-term partner. There seems to be a correlation between political ideologies and fast food. In 2009, the Pew Research Center surveyed 2,260 people on whether they prefer to live closer to more Starbucks or McDonald's. They learned that 46% of liberals picked Starbucks and only 28% of conservatives chose the coffee vendors. Oh yeah, and if we could remove a pumping human heart from the body, it would be able to shoot blood 30 feet away. So happy nightmares. 70% of a cat's life is spent asleep. That's over 16 hours a day. Finally, I have something in common with cats. Speaking of animals, barn owls are technically monogamous, mating with only one other owl. But 23.5% of barn owls are divorced. No stats on how many are on Match.com, though we'll get back to you. By 2050, it's believed that 38% of Christians will be living in sub-Saharan Africa. The average person reads about 250 words per minute. Braille readers manage about 115 words per minute. By the way, only 1% of visually impaired people in the UK read Braille. We have a few more Braille readers here in the US, but it's still only around 10% of legally blind Americans. Oh, and here's all sorts of fun information. The average US college student attends 62 parties each year. That's too many parties, and gets about 2 parking tickets annually. That sounds about right. And only about 59% of students graduate in 6 years or less. What are you doing with your time? As of 2013, about 1% of moms in the US claim to have had virgin pregnancies and births. That's 1 out of every 100 moms. Speaking of babies, in 2011, there were only 4 babies named Clive and 13 named Trevor in the UK. In 2011, the Bureau of Transportation Statistics found that 40 of the 100 most delayed flights in the US are either going to or from Newark Airport in New Jersey. So I will not be flying there ever. In 2013, the BBC reported that 50% of Justin Bieber's Twitter followers are fake. The source was a website who searched Bieber's followers for buzzwords typically associated with spam accounts like diet and money. Some estimate that Facebook hosts 4% of photos ever taken, and every day about 1 billion people use Facebook. The website correlated.org does weekly polls to try to find correlations between random things. For instance, they once learned from a survey with 507 participants that 71% of people like roller coasters, but only 58% of people who prefer soft-serve ice cream as opposed to scooped like them. The same website looked for a correlation between typing and pizza preference, because who wouldn't? It turns out that 75% of typists who need to look at the keyboard would rather have thin crust pizza than deep dish, but only 59% of people in general prefer thin crust. 4% of lost remote controls are in the fridge or freezer, according to one 2011 survey, so don't forget to check there, I guess. A 2013 survey found that 38% of American kids 2 years old and younger have played games or watched videos on a mobile device. And speaking of phones, 25% of Americans between the ages of 18 to 44 who own a smartphone say they can't remember the last time they didn't have their phone by their side. That's sad. Researchers at the University of Massachusetts studied lying in 2002. They learned that 60% of adults lied at least once in a brief 10-minute conversation. People actually averaged 3 lies per conversation. What if this is a lie? Let's finish up with a couple statistics that you probably hear a lot but aren't actually accurate, like that 50% of marriages end in divorce. Divorce rates in the US have actually been decreasing for years. Now it's estimated that 2/3 of current American marriages will not end in divorce. Some people will tell you that falling coconuts kill 150 people every year, making them deadlier than sharks, and these people often cite an academic paper that does not even claim this number to be true. Coconuts can and do kill people, but this stat seems to be made up. Finally, I return to the salon to tell you it's not true that only 1 in 10 Americans have a passport. The actual number is currently around 38%. That's way up from 1974, when only 3% of Americans had one. Thanks for watching Mental Floss video, which is made with the help of all of these nice people. Keep in mind that statistics change a lot, so don't hold me to these. Let me know the weirdest place you've ever found a lost remote in the comments, and don't forget to be awesome.